Okay, so now that you know the objective of this workshop and you know a little bit about myself, let's talk a little bit about the instructional strategy. Instructional strategy, because this workshop is really unlike any workshop or seminar or any training program that you've attended, in the sense that it's not academic at all. It's really experiential. So, what do I mean by experiential education? I mean something like this: the knowledge that I'm going to transfer to you is about 10% of what it takes to succeed. The remaining 90% has to do with your own experience, your own application of this material, your own implementation of this knowledge. So the knowledge, you're going to find that it's a little bit redundant in a sense that I'm going to repeat the same knowledge over and over and over again. And the purpose of this repetition is so that you become so fluent with this knowledge, this BMW knowledge, that you will apply it naturally. It will become a natural way for you to think, a natural reflex, a natural way of perceiving the world, understanding business, and therefore you will be able to create wealth naturally. That is the purpose of the BMW workshop. It is not to impart more information. It is not to give you more sophisticated or esoteric knowledge, or to introduce a framework that I've invented and I want to make money from as a consultant. No, it's really to give you the basic fundamental knowledge about business so that you can go out there into the business world and apply this knowledge and make a lot of money for yourself by creating a lot of value for your clients. So, to summarize, this is really experiential education. You will get the most out of this workshop if you have the conviction, or at least the open-mindedness, to apply this information and use it in your daily life, in your running of your small business on a daily basis. In other words, what I'm suggesting is that you adopt a philosophy of knowing exactly what you have to do. This is what I call the just do this instructional philosophy. I will not bother you or burden your mind with all kinds of theories. I mean, that's up to the MBA programs out there, and that's why they're charging you a lot of money. They cram your head with tons of knowledge that you will never need and you will never use. No, my strategy is really to tell you exactly what you have to do, given your business model, of course, given your competitive situation, of course, given your personal situation, of course. But you will be able to identify exactly what you have to do to be successful in business, because I often say this, and I'm going to repeat it again and again: business is really simple, and if you keep it simple, you will become rich. So keep in mind this instructional philosophy: just do this. You have to know exactly what you need to do. In other words, it's like a recipe. You want to learn cooking, you've got to follow the recipe. You've got to do exactly what the recipe says you must do. Otherwise, the dish that you're going to create will not taste good. Now let's talk a little bit about change. I know that a lot of people are uncomfortable with the idea of change, let alone the actual effort involved in changing. But here's my philosophy: if the payoff is worth it to you, you will change. You will change. But keep in mind that there are 3 levels to change. The first level is you've got to change your attitude. You've got to really change your attitude, your belief system. And there is no better book than the one titled Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. This is a book that you've got to read once, you've got to read it again, and then you've got to read it a third time, and then you've got to teach it to someone, because unless you teach it, you do not master it enough. T. Harv Eker is a genius. In that simple, small book, you will find everything you need to change your attitude from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. Second level of change is your knowledge. You've got to realize that whatever knowledge you have right now is simply not enough. If you're an employee who's transitioning to become an entrepreneur, you've got to read at least 5 books a month in order to gain the business knowledge, in order to compete effectively in business. If you don't have the knowledge, you will not succeed. Listen, I coach a lot of entrepreneurs and I tell them, look, if you can't read, if you don't have time to read, it simply means that you do not have time to succeed. That's simple. That's the bottom line. You've got to read. The third level of change is skills. This is not about reading anymore. This is about applying what you've read, and it's about getting and acquiring the skills that you need to succeed in business. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be very good at what you're doing. So that's the third level of change. Keep in mind that change is automatic, but progress is not. So it's not enough to change at these 3 levels. You've got to monitor your performance. You've got to monitor the results that you're getting in order to ensure that you direct change in a way that will bring more and more positive results to you. So changing is not enough. You've got to set the direction for change. You've got to monitor your changes, and you've got to monitor your results in order to stay in control of this evolution process. Business, running a business is basically nothing more than running yourself. You've got to monitor your self evolution. You've got to improve all the time. You've got to measure what really matters and then keep striving to aim for better results. Now, there's something I have to add in regards to progress. Obviously, you cannot have eyes and ears everywhere. You cannot monitor every aspect of your commercial system. So that's why you have to develop what I call systems thinking. Systems thinking means that you should create a system that will manage for you, that will measure the results for you. But more importantly, you've got to create a system where everything relates to one another, where a small change in one area of your business will propagate itself and result in escalating change, positive change for the rest of your company. So we're going to talk more about systems thinking, so don't worry too much about it. And finally, and perhaps this is the most important point I want to make today, is that the principle that if it's not good enough for them, it is not good enough for you. In other words, if you create a system for creating value or making money, and you can capture that system on paper and then you offer it to entrepreneurs who operate in the same space as you do, you offer them the system and they're not willing to buy it, what does that mean? It means that the system is not good enough for them. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if your system is not good enough for them, then why is it good enough for you? In other words, if you capture your business system and you sell it to people around you and nobody is willing to pay good money for it, it means your system is not worth what you think it is worth. It is not as good as you think it is. And if it is not as good as you think it is, and it is not good for other people, then it is certainly not good enough for you. So that's a way of testing how good your system is. If nobody wants to buy it, I'm sorry, your system is not good, and you've got to go back to the drafting table. You've got to redesign your system. You've got to refine it and get it to a point where it has what I call commercial adequacy or commercial quality. If your system has commercial quality, then people will buy it, and it means therefore that if it's good enough for other people, then you can reasonably assume that it's good enough for you.